What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Good morning. Welcome back to another morning show, another 9 a.m. show. There's plenty to discuss this morning. We've got, it never ends when you talk about transfer news in Manchester United. We've got Lisandro Martinez possibly forcing through a move now to Manchester United. Ajax playing hardball a little bit. We've got the latest in the next chapter of the Frenkie de Jong transfer saga. Is he going to come? Isn't he going to come? He's not interested. He doesn't like Barcelona. He's owed money. Where's the money going to come from? We're going to be talking about all of that this morning. We're going to talk about Christian Eriksen and possibly the reason why there's been a bit of a delay when it comes to him signing for Manchester United. His medical, of course, this week. We've got some details about that. We're going to talk about as well, possibly no CDM for Erik ten Hag this summer. Interesting. And we're also going to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, if he's expected to be on tour at all. Joined this morning, though, by DJ. DJ, how you doing? Up and early this morning?
Up and early, bright start. And you know what? I think, we just owe it to the community to update them. There's a lot that's gone on in the last 24 hours regarding our targets. So I know everyone's interested. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Absolutely, everybody is interested. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner as well. If you do wish to join the UV Members Club, the link is in the video description. It's also the pinned comment. You get your badges. You get your emojis. You can put your emojis in the chat right now. You can get your KG emoji. You can get your bomb emoji. You can get flex emoji, a Mike Phelan emoji. I don't know how long the Phelan emoji is going to stick around for. He's not part of the coaching team anymore. Could be an ambassador. Imagine that. We've got an emoji, if you remember, just for an ambassador. That's the legend that is Mike Phelan. So I can see him in there already. The Phelan emojis are getting in there already. And also, most importantly, you get your exclusive members-only video content. And we've got some exciting stuff planned for that. We were talking yesterday about what our next few videos could be. And they're pretty wild. So, yeah, they are pretty wild. So I'm excited to do all of those. But let's start off talking about Lisandro Martinez. This is breaking. It was late last night, early this morning, the latest when it comes to the Ajax defender. It comes from Mike Verwij out in Holland, of course. Very, very strong, reputable source when it comes to all things Ajax. He is saying that Lisandro Martinez is demanding Ajax negotiate with Manchester United, but Ajax does not want to negotiate with an offer of 45 million euros plus 5 million euros in bonuses. In fact, they're now asking for an offer of 60 million euros. Now, James Ducker from The Telegraph has continued saying that talks between Manchester United and Ajax over Lisandro Martinez are continuing. But DJ, what do you make of that? So this is quite an interesting one when it comes to Martinez, isn't it? Because we had, I think, one offer rejected. Arsenal have had a couple rejected. And it was previously thought that that sort of 50 million euro figure was what it was going to be needed to get it over the line. And now United put that bid in a 45 plus 5. But now Ajax are going, actually, no. We want 60 million euros. And Lisandro Martinez is going, no. I thought it was 50. Negotiate. What's going on here? He's trying to force this move through.
Yeah, you know what? It's just a case of Ajax, moving the goalpost. I think United and Martinez are a victim of narrative for this window. And the narrative is that Erik ten Hag wants to buy every single Ajax player that ever played for Ajax, past and present, and maybe even future. For Manchester United. Actually, future wouldn't even really make sense, but for Manchester United. Now, I think it's Ajax getting a bit annoyed that we're linked with all their players. We're linked, not with all their players, but we've been linked with at least 4 of their players, and we've been linked to a few past of their players. So I think, they're just playing silly beggars, to be fair. I'm quite confident that they will get done. I think the pressure from Martinez is going to be quite telling in the next sort of 24 to 48 hours. And going on into the next couple of weeks, because I still think that maybe he's still a week away from joining the club, or a bit more than that. But I think a deal will get struck, and I think, there will be a happy medium, maybe 55 million, maybe, 57 million, something around those lines. I think the deal can get concluded, because as we've been led to believe, every single penny, every single million with our transfer window, this transfer window is going to have to be really scrutinized. So I definitely think a deal can be done. I explain silly beggars.
Yeah, I agree. It's odd. And I would think that I understand Martinez being quite frustrated with this because, as I mentioned, I think the general consensus was 50 that will get it done. And United were kind of building up to that 50, test to resolve at maybe at like 35, test to resolve a little bit more at 40. Then it kind of, the general thing was, it'll probably be about 50. Then when they put in a deal that, granted, isn't 50 up front, it's 45 plus 5, but the total package is 50. For then Ajax to come back and go, actually, 60, we're looking at 60. United and Martinez would be well within their rights to go, wait a minute, you are definitely shifting the goalposts here. This doesn't feel right. Now, you mentioned that it's an issue when it comes to maybe narrative. Also, you could possibly say it's an issue when it comes to time. If United had maybe come in a lot earlier for this player, i.e. when Ajax needed to sell, or when Ajax were more considerate in selling their players earlier on this summer, because they've done the majority of their selling business at this point, right? They've sold their right back, they sold Gravenberch, they sold Haller, they got rid of their manager as well. And obviously now they're not in the position where it's like financially we have to sell. They're not in that position at this point. You could argue that the reason they've shifted the goalpost a little bit is because they've gone, wow, we're in control here. We can name our price. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. And if United did, you're right. If United did act sooner, he may have well been actually our first signing because, the want from the player is there. And at that point, Ajax, were maybe under a lot more pressure to sell. I think maybe United will have to test the resolve with maybe an increase of maybe 2.5 million, 5 million, but no more than that. Definitely they'll have to get done, needs to be done. I doubt Ajax want unhappy players there because if this deal doesn't go through, Martinez will be one of those unhappy players. And he's a good player, and you know what? I think he fits kind of what we need and what we want. And 50 million, he's no more than 60 million is even a bit of a push for me.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, is he worth 60? That would be the next question.
He's not worth 60 million. If they get 60 million, that's better business for them on us. But I do think he's worth around the 50 million mark. I think that's a fair reflection of the player. But if they're playing silly beggars, then I'd say we probably have to increase that, add another 2.5 million on just in increments and see kind of where the resolve is. But definitely there needs to be a deal, and we need to get this deal done as well because he's quite an important part of what we want to do as well.
I guess also as well, because you mentioned it there that you still do think the move will happen. And I do agree. I still do think that Martinez will move. I mean, who knows whether it'll be to Man United or Arsenal. Man United are the favourites, certainly. But do you think now it's within Martinez's prerogative to actually be like, oh, I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to have to start throwing my toys out the pram a little bit now. I'm going to have to, there was that first day of training and he wasn't there. Do you reckon it's going to have to get to the point where he's going to have to be like, transfer requests? I want to say go on strike. I never like to see that by any player, but that kind of thing. Is that the next step? Because we know this is a guy that's determined to leave this summer and determined to play in the Premier League. And now Ajax is shifting things around a little bit. Is the next step basically what the report is of saying, no, negotiate. I'm demanding you negotiate. Figure it out. I want to leave.
Yeah, I think Ajax, for me, I don't think Ajax is going to want it to get to that stage. I don't think, obviously, Martinez wants it to get. I don't think nobody wants it to get to that stage. But I do think that, if Martinez was promised certain things by Ajax, if Ajax said, if 50 million does come in for you, then we'll look at selling you, we'll entertain it. And if now they've gone back, which seems that they've gone back on that, if they have promised him that, then he's going to be quite a frustrated figure now. He has been putting pressure on them. He's done everything but strike, in my opinion. But I think maybe he does, stops turning up to some of the training sessions, starts putting the word out there through his agent that, I'm not coming back until my future's resolved, that type of thing. But that only strengthens United's hand. If that strengthens United's hand, then Ajax will then be forced to sell at maybe the fixed price of 50 million, 55 million, whatever it will end up being. But yes, there may need to be another wave of pressure from Martinez towards Ajax.
I want to get a couple of the comments up because it's quite interesting on this one now that this sort of 60 million price tag has been quoted. Fatboy says, walk away, there are other quality defenders available. I saw Tabaslow say something here. Owen, United board doing something sensible. Nah. We should have signed him and Timber earlier. This is rubbish. Tabaslav, one of the members, of course. And as Steffi Jenks says, be sure to smash the like on the like button as well. Again, I still do think this will happen. I still do think that we will sign Martinez this summer. But considering all of the sagas that we have in this transfer window, right? Frenkie de Jong, Cristiano Ronaldo, we really don't have capacity. I don't, as a fan, have capacity to be involved in another one of, is he not going to, the price, back and forth on the price. And this is kind of, I guess, typical of this window so far for United, of just when you think you're getting close to a deal, or a deal is close to getting done. Because last week it felt like that Martinez was just a couple of days away from getting done. Yeah. And then now get a bit of a pushback. It's the same with De Jong, broad agreement. You go, finally, this is getting done. Eriksen, here we go. And then sort of nothing happens for like a week. And you go, what is going on? And I guess this kind of just sums up United's window so far of thinking that you've got somewhere, or 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
I think that's because I actually agree with you. I think it's just because of our reputation now. I think clubs know that they can take the piss with us a little bit now. And we're seeing that in a multitude of deals. And there is still big uncertainty at the club. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo wanting to leave. That has a big knock-on effect, I do believe, you know, with other clubs. And then looking at the state of Manchester United, our problem, I think the biggest issue for United was that our problems were so well documented last season. And when it comes to the transfer market, now teams, they can play with us, they can play around with us, because we're not that effective in the transfer market as we once upon a time used to be. We're not that big power that we used to be. Obviously, we're big in name, big in brand, but in terms of the actual club and what we're doing and how we conduct our business is not in a big club way. So, you know, we're gonna get more deals like this until we start being successful again. We're gonna get more deals like this where people can mess around with prices and say one thing on one day. It's just sort of, you know, indicative of where we've come now, Owen. But in terms of Martinez, or Martinez, however you pronounce it, tomato, I still think the deal will get done. There has to be some happy medium for everybody. You know, I don't think United are going to bow down to 60 million. I think that's too much for him. But we can maybe find something in the middle for everybody, because Martinez definitely wants to come. And as we just spoke about, if he starts putting pressure on Ajax, they're going to have to sell.
This is an interesting one, though. We know Arsenal are still in this race, right? What happens if Arsenal put in 60 million euros? What do United do then? And again, is this why the Ajax have pushed back? Have Ajax pushed back to United to say 60 million? Let's see what Arsenal do. And if Arsenal say, well, we're walking away, we're not doing it, then they go, well, actually, you know, 50 is probably fine.
Yeah. You know what? That is a very, very good sort of question. I just don't see Arsenal putting up 60 million for him. I just don't see them doing that. I could be wrong. If they do, then it forces United's hand. It's down to us. What are we going to do? And I think because of the uncertainty around De Jong, because of the uncertainty around Ronaldo, United are gonna they may cave to that. Then I don't believe that United have maybe done tentative inquiries about other centre backs or whatever. I believe we have, but there's nothing as far as this deal here with Martinez. I don't think anything has gone as far as this. So we may have to just act on it anyway, and that's bad for United if Arsenal did come in with that.
I mean, Flex kind of touched on it the other day, and it is a really good point that he made. And I've had similar conversations with Arsenal fans whereby, yeah, they'd want Martinez, but they're not as desperate for a centre-back as, say, we are. They got a lot of centre-backs, and their centre-backs are okay. You know, they're not bad. They were quite happy with their defence last season, actually. So I don't think they see it as the end of the world if they don't get Martinez. So like you, I'd be very surprised if they saw that number from Ajax and said, yeah, we'll be willing to pay 60 million. I mean, they might, you know, they paid, 72 million for Pepe, so anything is possible. But I would be very surprised. My general feeling is that it might be Ajax trying to get in a bit of a bidding war. They did this the other day, and maybe they're hoping that Arsenal might come in for one last offer. But like we were saying earlier, I do think that eventually we'll sign the player. It's just a case of, again, it's another frustrating delay, which actually smooths as a smooth segue into our next topic, which is more De Jong drama. Another unexpected delay, right? There was so much when it comes to the Frenkie de Jong drama. Last night there was an avalanche of stuff about Frenkie. I'm going to do my very best, DJ, to go through all of this in a linear order, but there was so much. There was so much of this. So it started last night with Patrick Berger, who, of course, is a German-based journalist. He said Frenkie de Jong to Manchester United is unlikely at the moment. He definitely, strong words, he definitely doesn't want to leave Barcelona for United. But he is also very disappointed about how he has been treated by Barca. It continues. Then reporters in Spain, specifically Luis Rojo, who's done a lot on this De Jong story, said that a Barca and De Jong meeting is scheduled. The player is pissed off at the club's management regarding his case. The club will offer him a drop in salary, and if he doesn't take it, he has to leave. Now, this was a big report this morning from James Tucker from The Telegraph, saying that the impasse in the Frenkie de Jong deal centers around the wages he agreed to defer as a result of the pandemic and how and when they will be repaid if a transfer does indeed go ahead. De Jong is reported to be back in training today, but Manchester United have been given encouragement behind the scenes that De Jong does remain open to the move, with sources indicating that they would have not have progressed a deal so far if it wasn't the case. Now, Erik ten Hag is desperate to be reunited with Frenkie de Jong. Manchester United are continuing to sit tight for now, but sources insist they have alternative targets they can pursue if it reaches a point where they feel like they have to walk away from the deal. De Jong and Manchester United have been given assurances that De Jong is willing to move to Old Trafford in the event that his salary issues with Barcelona can be resolved. United are still working, this comes from Samuel Lucas, on a deal for Frenkie de Jong, with this sticking point being the wage deferral that we spoke about previously. Senior United sources insist that has to be resolved by Barcelona before a deal can advance. So obviously a lot to get into there. I think the key thing you could probably say is that you've got some people still saying, oh, he's not interested. You've got other people saying, no, he is interested. I think the key thing, and as I always say with all of these reports, DJ, it's like panning for gold. You have to get that sieve up, shake away all the dirt, find the gold in the middle of it. That is the truth. And the truth really is that this deal centers around those deferred wages. And if an agreement can be reached with De Jong and Barca, i.e. to stay and eventually get those wages, or to leave and eventually get those wages. But as those Manchester United sources are saying, the key is those wages. Nothing can go ahead until Frenkie de Jong, his agents, and Barcelona have come to an agreement, i.e. when are they going to get paid? Are they going to get paid? And can you confirm the methodology in which they're going to get paid? Yeah. And that just goes to sum up just how complicated all of this is.
Yeah, it's a mess. It is a mess. And, you know, we touched on it last night with the guys and obviously Steph. Steph's not a guy. But, yeah, we actually touched on it in terms of, did United know about this wage issue when we actually came in for him? When we actually had the first sort of tentative talks? When we spoke with his agent? Did his agent turn around and say, actually, well, we are owed a bit of money from Barca? So that begs the question, you know, were United really prepared for this deal? Were we really prepared for this deal? Because we've gone in there, you know, I think we went in with the romance of Ten Hag, knowing De Jong, former manager, former player, very good relationship. And we thought, especially, well, me anyways, I thought this was low-hanging fruit, easy to get done. Barca need to sell. They've got financial issues. But now when you get to the crux of the deal, there is so much politics involved. I think one of the points is Frenkie de Jong loves Barcelona. Of course, he would like to stay because he loves Barcelona. However, I think he's turned around and said, well, if they were going to get rid of me, I would go to Manchester United. I think that is the broad agreement nationwide, worldwide, that Frenkie de Jong would go to Manchester United. That's if Barcelona was going to sell him. If they weren't going to sell him, then he would stay at Barcelona because he's happy at Barcelona. I think that first part always gets misconstrued of, he doesn't want to come to Man United. Da, 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 da. I think he would if the offer was there and if Barcelona wanted to sell. It's all conditional. But in terms of the wages, I think it's very cheeky of Barcelona to sit him down and say, oh, actually, take a wage cut, especially when you've deferred wages and stuff like that, for him to stay. I just don't see that happening. You know, he may be a millionaire, but he still has bills to pay. So I think this only ends up in one way, where he does come to Manchester United. When that happens, it could be on deadline day. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and also as well, and I think this week is key, and I know people will roll their eyes at that. You go, oh, you sound like Gerard Romero. Big things are happening, DJ. Big things are happening. Oh, my God. I'm so sick of seeing that on social media. Big things are happening. Today could be a big day. We can all say that. I can say big things are happening today. Big things are happening today, DJ. You can ask me what. I'll go, I don't know. But they're big things are happening today. Oh, God. Nevertheless, he is back at Barcelona this week. And I do think that speeds up, expedites the process, whatever you want to call it, because he is actively going to be talking to people at Barcelona this week. Because if I was Frenkie de Jong and I'm showing up to preseason training, I'm showing up to Barcelona, I'm saying, right, what is going on? Somebody give me an answer of what is going on. Am I staying? Am I leaving? Because I've got the president coming out there saying, oh, well, we don't want to sell Frenkie de Jong. We've got no intention of selling him. Meanwhile, he knows they're actively negotiating a transfer for him. So that's a lie. That is a lie.
That's a big
and
lie.
Then when you're having the discussions of, I've deferred those wages and I agree to it. It's not as if Frenkie de Jong didn't agree to it. He agreed to it. But the point is, if I leave, when am I going to see that? How am I going to see that? If I stay, when am I going to see those wages? How am I going to see them? And if I can't give them a proper answer, and they're going, well, let's not talk about when you're going to get that money. What we're going to talk about is your money now, and we want you to have less of it now. You go, well, less of it? Again, I've already had less of it the last 2 years. They're going, yeah, we'll pay you that in the future. No, I want to know about the future money. That's what I was talking to you now. No, we're talking about money now. Talk about money now. We need to have less of it so you can stay. And they go, okay, so you're telling me if I take a pay cut, I can stay here. They go, yeah. Why do I have to take a pay cut? Oh, we don't have that much money. Right. Who are you signing at the moment? Is that Christensen just walked in? Yeah, we signed him. Free transfer. Is that Kessie that walked in? Yeah, we just signed him. Free transfer. What's Rafinha doing here? 72 million euros. Yeah, money. And you go, wait a minute. What about my money? What about my money? What about my money now? What about my money in the future? And it's just this all this smoke and mirrors that's going on with Barcelona is insane. And unfortunately, United are caught up in all of it. United are caught up in all of it. And they're in too deep now that if they walk away, it's embarrassing because they've spent 2 months working on it. Yeah, if they walk away now and just go, well, too complicated for us, you will have these people, rightfully so, saying, we could have told you that a month ago. We could have told you that 6 weeks ago. It's a complicated deal. Now, like you, DJ, I still think this deal will get done. But it's just constant. And that is trying to do a deal with Barcelona at the moment. This whole De Jong saga encapsulates what it is to do business with Barca at the moment. And that's any club. That's every club. You're constantly discussing, do you have the money? What's going on with the money? Are we actually going to get paid? Now, my hope is, and this is my hope and concern, frankly, because that they're going to have some meeting this week and they're going to discuss about these deferred wages. And Barca might offer him, well, we'll probably maybe give you like 3 million euros to write it off. And he'll go, well, it's not 17. And eventually a compromise has to be reached somewhere. I don't see a scenario whereby everyone gets what they want. I just can't see that at this point. And I don't know where that compromise will be. I mean, where do you think? Do you think a compromise can be had? Do you think De Jong gets all of his money, Barca get all of their money, and United get the player? Is that even a possibility?
No. I don't see De Jong getting all of that 17 million because Barcelona, they still have to build a squad. They still got to, build a squad to challenge and stuff like that. There'll have to be... Does De Jong get half of it? Do they maybe pay him 6 million now? We'll give you 6 million whenever, or I don't know, IOU, whatever it is. I do see him coming to Man United. Maybe even if they knock down the price of De Jong for us, they say United, could you cover that? But if you cover that, we'll knock down the price of his. Knock down the price. Maybe that could work.
Do you think they do that? Because they're talking about as well. Before it was deferred wages, it was add-ons. And when you think about, well, why were they so insistent on the add-ons? It's because they need the money now. They're going, Man United are going, yeah, we'll give you 10 million when we win a trophy. And they're going, you're taking the piss, win the trophy.
What, 6 years, 7 years?
When? We're not even going to exist when you next win a trophy. What's going on there? So, I don't know.
You've got the two sort of like worst teams at the moment to do a transfer deal. You've got United that can't execute anything. United struggling to sign free players, let alone players with value. And then you have Barcelona, who have sort of some of the biggest financial issues at the moment in world football. So it's the two worst teams to do business, and they're trying to do business, and you can see what it's headed into. So my whole thing is this. There must be some encouragement that De Jong wants to join Manchester United on some level. There has to be. Otherwise, it's insanity to chase a player that is telling you no, 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 no. No means no, right? So if he isn't telling you yes, it's a no. So there must be encouragement from his side. Then looking at sort of like the political side and the financial sides of, this money that's owed. Did United know about it? Because if they did know about it, then they must have a strategy around it, or they must be hopeful that there is going to be a resolution. There's going to be some form of resolution for De Jong's wages, because I doubt that they're going to want to cover that. I think it's cheeky for them to even cover that anyways. That'd be very bold of Barcelona to even ask United to do that. So it's a waiting game. I say everyone at home, I know everyone's got their say on De Jong and we should go for other targets and stuff like that. I think there's enough in this deal, whether it's 10%, 15%, whatever it is, to say that De Jong does want the move. It's just sorting out this money. It's just sorting out this money.
Do you think it's also the insistence of Ten Hag as well? Because for me, there is no way that even in the earlier stages of this, John Murtough didn't report back to Ten Hag going, I tell you what, I think we could get him. I think we can get him. But I'm telling you now, this is going to be very complicated. And this one's going to take a lot of time. Now, I know in an ideal world, we'd get him in. But I'm telling you, do we need to weigh up how long this is going to take versus, how quickly we can get other people in? And you do get this sort of image in your mind of Ten Hag going, I don't care how long it takes. I want Frenkie de Jong. He's my guy. And then after it comes back about the add-ons, Eric, this is going to take a while. This is complicated. He goes, I don't care how long it takes. I want Frenkie de Jong. They go, okay. Comes back now. There's this whole thing with deferred wages. Nothing can really go ahead until they agree how they're going to figure that out, how they're going to sort that out. It's going to take a while. He's probably not even, we're talking about beginning of the season. Is he even going to be in for the beginning of the season? And he goes, I don't care how long it takes. I want Frenkie de Jong. Frenkie de Jong's my guy. I'm talking to him, apparently. Which again, doesn't make a lot of sense. He talks to him every day, but he doesn't want to leave. You'd go, eventually, he'd stop returning his call. You just stop picking up, wouldn't you? You'd be going, this guy, what's going on with him? But the point being is that you do get that there is this insistence from the manager. He's my signing. He's my guy. He's the one I want. He's the one I'm going to build this team around. And yeah, it might take a while now, but in the long term, it will pay off because we'd have got the guy and we can build the team around him and we can be successful. And I suppose the next question is, though, DJ, is, United insist that we do have alternatives. We do have backup targets if we do want to walk away. When is that time? Can United walk away at this point?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to actually say before, was when is that time we actually walk away from this deal? When does it become extremely futile to even try and sign someone like De Jong with all this sort of, like, as Faz would say, the hoo-ha around him? Big up Faz. I would just say this. I think there are those talks with Ten Hag. He's a very intense individual. I like the way he comes across. He's very intense, very sort of militarized, military. And if he says to, the powers that be, I don't care, I want this player, we need to sign him, then, we've been, the board have been criticized and not backing managers before. That would then be backing him all the way in going into a deal which is literally up and down and them actually securing the player. Now, I think with De Jong, out of all our signings or potential signings, I think we can afford for him to come in at deadline day as long as he comes into this team, because I think if you look from a footballing aspect, him in the middle of the park now that Pogba's gone, I think will do wonders with the system that Ten Hag wants to do. So if he's that important to Ten Hag, we have to sit in this for a long run. We just got to, as fans, as I said, guys, just detach. When the news comes, it will come. It will come. We can sit there praying for De Jong every single day. It doesn't make him come to the club any faster than that, does it? So just relax, be detached from it. I'm pretty sure they have made tentative inquiries for replacements. I believe that is. I only think that's talking to a couple of agents.
You believe there's a list?
I believe there is a list. I do believe there is a list. I do, because I think Ten Hag, because he's so meticulous, I don't think he would just, one player and no others. There's going to be a list. My only issue is how far along has there been any talks with these players, and what's the situation around these players on the list? Because I'm pretty sure there's going to be other clubs in for these players on our list as well. So that's my whole thing. If it's going to take as long as this De Jong deal, then we might as well just stay on the De Jong train for now.
And also as well, say worst case scenario, we do have to walk away and we have to go for alternatives. This De Jong thing has been so public. Everyone knows the situation with the De Jong saga, that if we go, right, we're going to go for Ruben Neves, there's no way that Wolves don't go, you're desperate, 60 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they would. And you wouldn't
Yeah.
blame Wolves for saying it. But, and also, from their perspective, it'd be a case of the season is closer and closer. They have less time to bring in a replacement. They probably can, and they probably would. But immediately, they have the upper hand in that negotiation because they know the situation that Man United did when it comes to desperation. And that's why I say that you've committed this amount of time to Frenkie de Jong. If you in your heart of hearts truly believe that it can get done and it will get done before the end of the window, when you've invested 2 months, you might as well just carry on with it. You might as well.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's
trying
what
to
we're
fix
saying,
up your car, trying to fix up your car yourself. You go, this takes a lot, but I'll save money. I'll do it up myself. And then you've been working on it for a couple of months. You're thinking, I could probably just buy a new car at this point. And you go, you know what? No, I've invested this amount of time and this amount of money. I found the parts. I'm going to fix it. And then it becomes almost like a stubbornness, you know, I've got to fix this. I'm going to do it. And then eventually when your car's running smoothly, you go, it was the best thing I ever did. And then your car breaks down after a couple of miles and you go, shit.
It's a war of attrition. It's just a war of attrition at the moment. We've just got to stick in there. We've got to hang in there and see how this develops. I think United do hold some cards in terms of, you know, we want the player. You know, I think every player wants to feel wanted. You know, he knows he's going to be straight into that first team. He knows he's going to be pivotal to this rebuild. He knows the manager. He will know some of the players that are already there. So, and I think just touching on kind of what you just said there, Owen, we've already showed our hand. If 56 is the broad agreement, that's telling other clubs we've got around about 56 to 60 million to spend on a midfielder. They may even push it to 65. Do you know what I mean? So I think for there to have been a broad agreement, then this come out afterwards, very, very bad timing. Usually you want to hear broad agreement, negotiations are picking up pace, gathering pace, structures of deals, and then the player comes. That's what you kind of want. So it's unfortunate for us, but hey, look, we might as well just stay in this race. We've come too far. We've come too far.
Exactly. I want to get Ryan's comment that says, Owen, we can't even sort a free agent deal and medical. It doesn't inspire optimism with Frenkie de Jong. Well, big up Ryan, as always. It's always about opinions. And we are going to be talking about Christian Eriksen in a second because there's a bit of reasoning behind the delay when it comes to that medical. Yeah. And when you think about it, it's almost entirely logical. But what I do want to say as well, in addition to smash a like on the like button, there's over 1,000 people watching, about 200 likes. Not good enough, as Josh would say, not good enough at all. It doesn't matter if, Josh and Mr. Phelan are two different people. I have it under good authority, though, that Mr. Phelan just coincidentally is also in Thailand at the moment, even though him and Josh are different people. But I think he's over there as well. So he can't jump in, but he would say smash a like on the like button as well. I did want to talk about that. Fabrizio Romano has tweeted in the last couple of minutes or so saying Andreas Pereira has just signed the contract as a new Fulham player. No issues. Deal completed until June 2026, plus the option of a further year. Manchester United will receive £10 million plus £3 million in add-ons. You happy with that, DJ?
Very happy with that. You know, finally we sell someone. It's not the biggest amount of money, but it's okay. It's okay. And he's someone that, you know, needed to be moved on maybe even 2-3 years ago. So I'm actually happy that he's gone. He's going to get first team football. You know, he's going to play regularly. Okay player. I still think there's levels that he could go up, but I think Manchester United just wasn't the correct environment for him to do that.
10 million quid as well. I'll take it.
Yeah,
30 million overall. Happy. Happy with that. And again, it's no, and it always, I think it's always worth pointing out, like you said there, it's never any disrespect to the player.
Yeah.
There are just some people that just aren't good enough for the level of Manchester United. I don't think anyone would disparage saying that Andreas Pereira isn't at the level of a Manchester United player. Wherever he's really gone on loan, he's gone to the likes of Valencia, I think Lazio as well. Obviously went back to Brazil. I think he did okay in Brazil, but when he was in Europe, I don't think he did particularly well. He might do very well at Fulham. Sometimes it's just a case of the right surroundings. But he was a player that if he had stayed, the conversation like him, and it's like this with a lot of people where you go, why are they still here? Like, why can't we get rid of them? Why can't we move people on? And 10 million, I'll take that. I'm happy with that. But moving on to incomings, Christian Eriksen. We have an update when it comes to Christian Eriksen. As we just spoke about a second ago, a lot of people saying, what's the delay? What's going on here? We got the here we go. It wasn't even last week. It might have been the week before that, wasn't it? It was a while ago now. It's like 10 days ago, something like that. And Christian Eriksen is scheduled to have his medical this week for Manchester United. Now, the delay actually was that this medical isn't going to be your average medical. Samuel Lucas is reporting that Eriksen is scheduled to have a stringent medical this week. Manchester United are conscious of the cardiac arrest he suffered at Euro 2020 last year. Eriksen, Man United expect Eriksen to become their second signing this summer and are hopeful he could link up the squad on the Australia leg of their pre-season tour, which is later this week. Of course, we've got, I think, 3 games in Melbourne and Perth. So the expectation is that he will be joining up with the squad hopefully later this week. But the reason for the delay, DJ, is the fact that United aren't naive to the situation that happened last year. Nobody can forget it. It's kind of burned into our brains, isn't it? Those images that we saw on television at the time. Yeah. United should be cautious, right? They should be just going, well, let's double check this one. And that's why there's a bit of a delay here.
Yeah, 100%. And, they'll pay for, the most stringent medical. They'll pay for, the top doctors to, evaluate him, make sure that he's fighting fit to play in the Premier League. As we were saying kind of yesterday, talented player. He's at the peak of his powers at this moment in time. But, just for insurance purposes as well, United need to obviously, do their due diligence to make sure that he is fit to play at Manchester United. I'm guessing that he will be fit. He played a lot of football and played in some high intensity games, even against us as well. So I hope that, the medical goes through. It's not even going to be a medical. Well, it's going to be a medical, but it's going to be an additional, medical checks and tests. So
they say stringent, it basically just means tests they might not do in your average medical. People, it was a really, I think Sky might have done it before. They did a really good piece on what medicals are, because there is almost a bit of confusion as to what medicals are. You just see the pictures of them maybe running on a treadmill and have the wires hanging off and all that kind of stuff. Medicals can vary from person to person. Essentially, all they're trying to, they can be really intense or they can be not intense at all. It depends on the player. It depends on how much money's been invested. Sometimes it's just a case of they're just double checking stuff that they're not really aware about. The time that people fail medicals is when they discover something they didn't know previously. Oh, his ACL's like completely destroyed. We didn't really know that. Or they know about the Eriksen situation, and I'm sure Eriksen and his own personal doctors have told Manchester United this, and making a mistake. There's no issue with Christian Eriksen. He played half a season of Premier League football last season. Yeah. He's clearly back to where he was before. But we know that Eriksen's, not your average case as to what happened last year. So I think that's always worth pointing out when people get frustrated or angry and they say, it's a free transfer. Why is this taking so long? United can't even get a free transfer over the line. You would say, well, this is a slightly different situation. This isn't your average free. This isn't your average free transfer. There are slightly mitigating circumstances here, and it's why wouldn't United just do those extra couple of checks? That makes sense to me.
I think if we were managers of a football club and Eriksen was available, we would have made that signing, but also we would have done the exact same checks. We would have had maybe not the same. I don't want to say it's concerns, but it's just making sure that you're dotting the I's, crossing the T's with Eriksen, especially with what he went through. He went
for his own health as well. Imagine
exactly.
He does this thing and they go, actually, tell you what, Christian, we saw this actually. You might not have even known about this, and you go, thank God,
exactly,
figured that out, and that's the reason why, really. But when it comes to his arrival, they're hoping that'll be later this week in the Australia leg of the tour. There's quite a good, interesting thing to discuss actually when it comes to Eriksen, is that how many games do you think he's going to play for Manchester United this season? I think sometimes when people think free transfer, was he 30, 31, they'll go, well, he might be part of the squad. Do you think he's going to play more games than people think this year?
I definitely think so. I think he may be the rotational player with Bruno. Honestly, I do believe that. I think
really?
Eriksen, yes. I definitely think so. I think in what he offers as a player, he can play a little bit from deep. He can play in the 10, and he's very fluid player. So I definitely think that, if there are a few games where I don't think he'll start the season, I think, Bruno will start the season. But if Bruno starts, doing Bruno things and doing Bruno ball like he was doing before, then, we may start seeing the introduction of Eriksen. But not to forget, Donny's there as well. We know that Ten Hag doesn't play sometimes with an actual combative 6. He has done in the past, but he's very fluid. He's very fluid as a manager. So you never know. It could be times at certain games let me be positive. When we do get De Jong, when we do get De Jong, we may actually see Eriksen dropping into midfield alongside him in certain games against the Leicester team. So I think he'll play a lot more games than what people think. Quality player.
Yeah, I think that was what I was saying with Flex. I think he'll play more games than people think. I think that his first training session, he'll go in, they'll go, I mean, arguably, you look at the midfielders or the advanced players in that Manchester United squad, and he comes into that Man United squad, he's the best technical player immediately.
Yeah.
Can you name a better technical player than him at Manchester United in terms of being able to pass the ball, distribute the ball, first touch? I don't think you could, which is wild when you think about it. But that's why Man United have gone after him. I'm with you. I think he'll play more games than people think. I don't necessarily see him being as advanced. I think the Bruno situation is interesting because I think Bruno will be far more advanced. Ultimately, we still don't know what Erik ten Hag's system is going to be at Manchester United. That's why those preseason games are so fascinating, because that first lineup, and that won't be what Ten Hag is going to play for the rest of the season, or that first tactical formation isn't going to be what Ten Hag plays for the rest of the season. But just seeing how he's going to set up is going to be really interesting, because we're so used to 4-2-3-1. That's all we know. Yeah, so if we saw like a 4-3-3, or we saw something a little bit that you'd be like, oh, actually, what's going on here?
What's going on
here?
So
I see Eriksen maybe being a little bit deeper. I think that Ten Hag will really utilize his range of passing. I think that's arguably Eriksen's biggest strength, is his range of passing. I don't want to give too much away because it hasn't actually gone up yet. But we were watching something the other day about Christian Eriksen, and it was just his half of the season at Brentford, his range of passing.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable when you really think about it. It's really, really good. I remember when we played Brentford at Old Trafford towards the end of the season, and whilst we beat Brentford, I think it was 3-0 on the day, Eriksen was the best player on the pitch by far. He absolutely ran the show. And again, that was from a slightly deeper position. So I could see maybe him playing a bit deeper. And look, who's to say if we don't get Frenkie de Jong, we might not, then maybe he goes even deeper than people think. Maybe he then turns into the Frenkie replacement, and they go for a midfielder that's a bit more advanced. Is that out of the realm of possibility as well?
I don't think it is. I think, we've still got Donny van de Beek there that could partner either one of those two.
It's a big season for your Donny, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I remember after every game last season, before he went on loan, you'd say, well, where is Donny? What's going on with Donny? To the point where I said, DJ, don't even bring it up. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear about it anymore. What about Donny? What's going on with Donny? You said on his deathbed. I want to hear the Donny Chronicles. I want to read the Donny autobiography. And I think it was you. You said on my deathbed, I want to know what happened when it came to Donny. And I went, that's an odd request, DJ. To be honest, for your dying wish is to know what happened with Donny van de Beek. I feel like he's gone. He's gone. DJ's gone already. He's definitely gone already if that's his last request. But it is a big season for Donny. Continue, yes.
Yeah. I just think that, because I think that's a very interesting point that you brought up. If we don't get De Jong, maybe Eriksen does go into that deeper role. And, you have players like Donny van de Beek that will complement those type of deeper role players who can move the ball forward and very progressive. So I think, it's not out of the realm of possibility that, let's say De Jong doesn't come. You play Eriksen, maybe as not the 6, but just a deep line playmaker. And you have, Donny just next to him. There might be a lot of fans screaming like, no, that's terrible. But we have to remember Ten Hag, he's a different type of manager. He play with different systems. One thing I do know about him is he has played with combative combative 6s. And other times he hasn't. So, he may decide to play 2 8s. We don't know just yet. I think Marcelo touched on that yesterday. So, very fluid system, very fluid players. But Eriksen definitely going to play a lot more games than what people think. Bruno, for me, will potentially be used as obviously the 10, or he may be used in the front line somewhere, maybe off the left, or who knows, false nine. Who knows? So
maybe I've said that I don't think you can rule it out. Michael says Donny will still be on the bench.
Michael just
say that though.
Poured all over my parade.
Yeah, I thought you say that though. What happens? What happens, DJ? If first game of the season, Donny's on the bench, what's your reaction?
I mean, if he's on the bench first game of the season, well, that's where he's been. So my reaction is going to be like, okay. But I do think we'll see him more. that's the one thing that I will take. The one positive I would take for him being on the bench. We're going to see him more this season anyway. Is before when he was on the bench, it's like, when are we going to see him? I think it's a question. No, sorry, it was like if we're going to see him, but I think now it's a case of when we're going to see him. So, yeah, I think it would be the same. I do think he'll play anyways.
Well, look, if he doesn't play more games under his manager, that he's definitely done. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from that one. Let's talk about no CDM possibly for Erik ten Hag this summer. Samuel Luckhurst is reporting that Manchester United are prepared to go through the transfer window without signing an out-and-out defensive midfielder. Erik ten Hag is so eager to sign Frenkie de Jong, he is prepared to Escu, I'm not even sure what that word is. A defensive-minded midfielder. I've never heard. I'll check that word in a second. A defensive-minded midfielder. You know when you're reading something and you go, this word is coming up and I don't know what it is or how to say that word. And I was just thinking in my head, I was doing I essentially in my brain did the equivalent of right-click synonyms. And I was thinking, the problem is I don't know what the word means. So I can't do forego a defensive-minded midfield signing. There you go. But yeah, so apparently possibly we could go through another window, not just this one, another one. DJ Khaled. I know who that is. Without signing a defensive midfielder. Now, what is wild about that, DJ, is coming out of last year's summer transfer window, when we signed Ronaldo, and we signed Sancho, we signed Varane, the criticism then was, we didn't get a defensive midfielder. Yeah. That was the one thing. And the fact that 12 months later, we could be in a situation where it's like, we decided not to go for it because we wanted to go for Frenkie de Jong. Is that not worrying a little bit?
It would be worrying if our manager isn't Ten Hag. That's just me. I think it'd be worrying if it was a Nolly or whoever else. Managers that actually want to play with a combative six. But as I kind of touched on before, Ten Hag has played with players that aren't necessarily the type of sixes that we as United fans have been accustomed to or would want. His players are a little bit more fluid, and the team tends to defend, as a team, not necessarily down to one or two individuals. And that's when we think of a combative six, that's what we think. Someone sitting in front of the back four, cleaning up, tackling, robust in tackling. We're going to play in a different way. I think he's looking to dominate the ball. We're going to have more of the ball this season. That's what he's aiming for. So he's probably sacrificing the skills of a combative six to be having more ball-playing six, a six that gets forward, progresses the ball, goes through the lines. However, there are players that you can still utilize in this squad as the more combative element if you really wanted it, i.e. Fred, who I think is going to have a big, big season under Ten Hag. I think, I think he would be the partner for De Jong if De Jong comes. When De Jong comes. I think because we have this manager, he's a bit more astute with the tactics. We'll be okay. I think we'll be okay.
And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the insistence on Frenkie de Jong in that. But what means we won't get a defensive midfielder? I don't care. I want Frenkie de Jong. He's my guy. It's going to take ages. I don't care. I want Frenkie de Jong. He's my guy. And you could argue with this pursuit of Martinez as well, where can he also play? Defensive midfielder. So maybe that's the key. We mentioned that he's a multifunctional player, and maybe that's Erik ten Hag's way of being a bit like, okay, I'm not going to get a defensive midfielder because I'm going to get Frenkie. Martinez is a centre-back that can also be a defensive midfielder. I can put him there for a season. Yeah, it means that the centre-back partnership is going to be either Varane and Maguire again, or Varane and Lindelof, or Maguire and Lindelof once again. That's a concern, but we would then have a midfield that includes a defensive midfielder in Martinez, Frenkie de Jong, plus a Christian Eriksen, plus a Donny. That doesn't sound too horrific, does it, in terms of options of people that can actually do something with the ball at their feet?
Yeah, and when Martinez comes in, you then look at kind of the players whose strongest game is sort of like around the defensive part of the game. Your Scott, actually no, Fred, Martinez. You've got two players there.
I remember actually to cut you off there. I remember.
I know what you're going to say. And
you know me because I never forget. I never forget. And to be fair, this doesn't even need to be like a receipt one because I could just, I could go back and find this one pretty quickly, I think. Do you recall? It might have been the first full view we ever did. It might have been the first. I'm not even sure it was called the full view at that point. And DJ said, this was after the Leeds game where we won 5-1. DJ said McTominay reminded him of Steven Gerrard. I rest my case.
For all the times where people's receipts have got pulled up on stream, I always thought, they're never going to remember that. Never going to remember that. But lo and behold, and you know what? What I meant to say that day, was that he just reminded me in terms of how he was running around the pitch, getting into tackles and driving the ball forward. Didn't say he was as good as Steven Gerrard or whatever, be as good as Steven Gerrard. But he just reminded me in that one game. So, yeah. But, I just think that, Martinez is going to be that CDM. I think he's going to be a multifunctional, as you kind of said there. And I think that's good from Ten Hag. You bring in Martinez that can play CDM, and we can still have a partnership of Varane. And maybe he wants to see what Axel's got to say. You never know. We never know what Ten Hag's going to pick this season. So that's where the excitement is also.
McTominay similar to Steven Gerrard, you say? Well, to that I have to say,
unfortunately, I don't agree with you.
I don't agree with that one.
You got me as well. You got me.
I can't say McTominay Gerrard.
Unfortunately, I don't agree with you.
No, not the same. Not similar.
Oh, this is bullying. I need to talk to HR.
Yeah, well, get in line. Everyone does. Anyway, guys, look, we're going to wrap it up there because Erik ten Hag actually has got his first preseason press conference. Yes. Starts in 5 minutes' time. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to watch that. And I'll be back sometime later today. I've got to figure out when I'm going to be back for that one. Definitely didn't forget it was going to happen. So, we'll be back at some point there. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I'll also be back as well with the press conference reaction too. And we'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.